All right. Hey, Katie. Welcome
Hey,
back.
Rhiannon. Thanks. How's it going?
It's going great.
It's another week and
It's another week.
another great set of music ready to be played and remembered.
Yes. Before we do that, we do have a couple of corrections and updates. These are both updates versus corrections.
Woohoo!
Um, at the beginning of the last episode, I was trying to remember a movie that had
Hmm.
Ethan Hawke in it that was good and scary because it takes place in the 70s. That movie is called Black Phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's on a lot of the streamings right now. I watched it on the streaming because I don't go out to the movies. But it was good. And since it takes place in the 70s, that is part of why it's scary. Um, but I think it's not gory, so I think you would still like it.
I see.
And there's character development that happens in it. So I would recommend that. Even for people who don't like horror, I think it's good.
Awesome.
The other update is that I was like, Modest Mouse. I've heard of these people. They did a cover of a famous song, and famous might have been stretching it. Um, Modest Mouse participated in a cover compilation album called I Love Metal back in the 90s. I used to really love compilation albums. A lot of my picks are going to come from them. But I also really like bands that cover other musical styles that are not their own, but covered in their
Yes.
style. So this was a like ska covers, all ska bands covering all metal songs.
Oh, that's fun.
That's,
That's
right up
right
my
up my
alley.
alley.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I'll have to check
So
that out.
so it was they did a cover of Slayer's South of Heaven. And Slayer, of course, is one of those like real classic metal bands.
Metal.
So
Yes, that is
um
very metal.
very metal. So I don't know that it was like I don't think it got any radio play, is what I'm trying to say. I think it was just something that
Gotcha.
got known in my circles because my friends also were super into specifically ska bands covering other genres. All right.
Gotcha.
So those are only two corrections and updates from last week.
That's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we'll get started and we'll go with your songs first.
Oh, I'm so excited. I picked 3 this week. I don't really think they have, necessarily musically connecting themes, but they just a lot of them were just more, again, on the personal memories and fun stories. So, I will start with my first one here. I hope you enjoy. I'm sure you know the song. There's no
Okay.
way. I am absolutely sure you'll know this song.
Okay.
Here we go. There we go.
Tell me, do you think it'd be alright if I could just crash here tonight? You can see I'm no sheep for driving, and anyway I've got no place to go. Yet you know it might not be that bad. You were the best I'd ever had. If I hadn't blown the whole thing years ago, it might not be love. Tomorrow we could drive around this town. Let the cops chase us around. Past is gonna something might be found to take its place. Hey, jealousy. Hey, jealousy. Hey, jealousy. Hey, jealousy. You can trust me not to think.
Okay, I had to make myself stop playing that song. Well, did you know the song?
um, I know I've heard it before, but I don't think I've ever like focused on listening to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the word Gin Blossoms. I'm like, okay, I've seen that band's name before, and I've seen Gin Blossoms, Hey Jealousy, these words put together before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that it wouldn't be something that I could sing along to, but I think I've just know the concept of like, yeah, I think I've heard it, but not enough that
Yeah.
I know it.
Well, this song actually came out in 1992,
Hmm.
and, I'll give all the band facts later, but, I think this was the first band that either I, like, found myself or, like, really got obsessed with. I think I thought the lead singer was hot. His name's Robin Wilson. I literally wrote him a letter like to the fan club address, I think off the back of a tape, a cassette
Mhm.
tape or something. So I was like my 11-year-old self and I wrote him, and I still have, of course, I should have brought the prop, but I'd have to go dig it out of my archives, but a handwritten note back from him. I don't know if it was from him. I don't know how famous they were at the time, but and he like addressed the stuff that I said to him, and I think I asked him what his middle name was or something like that, and he told me his middle name. You know, all that hard hitting interview questions that 11-year-olds would ask,
Yeah.
and so I was just really obsessed with this song and this band, and one of my best memories, and I don't even know if my mom remembers this, but this is like a great mom memory, is I really wanted to see them. They were coming in concert. I heard on the radio or whatever. And I didn't want to like bother my mom and ask her to buy me tickets or like whatever. I was that little considerate child, like, oh no, don't spend money on me or whatever. And I was calling, oh my gosh, I was calling radio stations trying to win tickets when I was 11. Okay, this is digging deep into the psyche here. So like I was in my room calling and trying to win tickets off the radio, and my mom overheard me doing this, like with my door closed, being all sneaky. And so she went out and bought me concert tickets. And I was my best friend Beth, she's going to be in a lot of these stories of my younger years, but so this was one of the, I think this is the first concert where we went like by ourselves without adult supervision. And that was like back in 1992. So I did a little googly to see like what time of year, you know, who was opener. Toad the Wet Sprocket opened up for them. Like I had no idea. So I'm sure we went in time to see them, but I was there to see the Gin Blossoms. So um lots of fond memories of the Gin Blossoms in my life. That it's like my formative years apparently of winning contests, winning tickets off the radio, trying to. But yeah, I still have that like fan club, fangirl letter. Um, and then, you know, just Gin Blossoms throughout growing up. A little bit about them. I think they formed a little bit before 1992. They're Tempe, Arizona / Phoenix, Arizona band. Um, and then in 95, please tell me you've seen Empire Records.
Yeah, that's with
Liv
Cusack, right?
Tyler. No, that's High Fidelity.
Oh, that's High Fidelity. Okay. So
Yes.
tell me the story of this one then. Liv
So
Tyler.
so Empire Records, they're about to go out of business, and so they're having like a Save the Empire party. There's
Mhm.
also Sexy Rex Manning who's coming to the store. Renee Zellweger's in it. Just a whole bunch of cast
Yeah.
of hot 90s people. And so the Gin Blossoms has a song in that too. It's called I think that one's Follow You Down. I have to remember here. But anyway, so they've had lots of fame and whatnot, and they're also have been on the like 90s comeback summer tours that were coming around in like 2013, 2014 or whatever. And I think also in the past few years, maybe like right before COVID, we've got a little small town like Lancaster, you know, these small town festivals around. I think they headlined one of those small town festivals. So just good times that Gin Blossoms.
I love everything about this story because I feel like that's like the first sketch of adult Katie. Like the first sketch of adult Katie, she's like scheming. She's like, I don't have the cash required to get this thing. What tools do I have available? Call the radio? Got it. And then you're like, I've already done my research. I've written a letter to this man. He responded.
Exactly.
I love everything about that story. That was so amazing.
But yeah, so Gin Blossoms, I've got, you know, that album, Hey Jealousy, and they have quite a few good songs on that. And I'm sorry, the album's called New Miserable Experience. I wasn't trying to say that. And then I have like one other album. I kind of started, you know, my whole genre and loving everything in music. It depends on what mood I'm in, I want to listen to. So,
Yeah.
you know, they were just kind of always there as a staple bass line to listen to.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was cute. I like that. So I'll have to do some listening to see if it starts ringing any bells for me. Because definitely the words are familiar. It didn't instantly like, oh, I know this song. It didn't happen for me this time.
Yeah, that's so shocking because it's one of those that is almost to me like wallpaper soundtrack in my life, you know?
Hmm.
Let's see. So anyway, that was that. My
Okay.
next song, I'm not sure if you will know or not. I don't know and didn't know a lot about the artist, but I can talk more about that in a second. So let me get her started here. Oh, I gave it away. It's a her.
Okay.
All right.
La da 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 da.
Ah,
La da 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 da. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Are you out there? MOD, are you out there? I can't see your face, but you left a trace on a data back road that I almost erased. Not even God takes this long to get back, so get back. 'Cause I hit a fork in the road, I lost my way home, cut off from the main line like a disconnected modem. Hello, tap of the code, I reach you below. No one should brave the underworld alone. Hello, hello, hello.
so have you heard the song before?
I have not heard this song before, but it was very much something that I am going to follow up with because that I think it's kind of like a continuation of last week when we had all that kind of spoken, not quite rap, spoken
Mm,
rock.
yeah,
Female version of that spoken rock and the lyrical like cuteness of it, just like disconnected, like or like something like a disconnected modem. I have the static like a disconnected modem. I'm like, huh, good with words. This lady's good with words. Um, I it's so funny because we do not coordinate. I almost put the Cranberries on
mm,
this week,
yeah,
but I picked a different song instead. But I feel like we're like, oh, even though we don't know the same music and I know nothing, we kind of are in the same, like the 90s remind us of that same like feeling. And
yes,
yeah, they don't sound like the Cranberries at all, but I feel like I feel the same listening to them as I felt when I listened to the Cranberries.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The I chose this song for a lot of reasons. So the song came out in 95, but I don't feel like I heard it or was familiar with it till I was at least like 16, 17, something like that. This CD may have been a you know what? By that time, I was probably just purchasing CDs anyway because I liked a song, and
Hmm.
I was getting into like female rockers, and Alanis Morissette was out, and No Doubt, and just the Lilith Fair and women empowerment and music like getting more recognition. And what I loved about Poe, first of all the apparently I like also the spoken word. It was kind of trippy and hypnotic. But on her album, there's like I listened to this album over and over, and I started college in 99, and this album that it's on is one of those albums that I played over and over while studying, where all the lyrics and the words become wallpaper so I can focus on the content and this is just playing in the background. But there's other songs on this album. Angry Johnny was really famous as well, but there's one called Trigger Happy Jack. And a lot of her songs, you know, they're about dudes, relationships. A lot of the song lyrics have multiple meanings. Trigger Happy Jack, she talks about his pistol and everything else, but I'm pretty sure it's also a metaphor for relationships and dirty type things, and hating someone so much you still want to sleep with them and that kind of stuff. And so being a early or late teen, early 20s, that's the kind of motifs and themes in your life you're exploring as a young lady. And but like Trigger Happy Jack, to just part of the, I think maybe the chorus or whatever, but it's like, you can't talk to a psycho like a normal human being. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. With all the psychos in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that's really why I picked her. I also think not a lot of people knew about her. Like when I tried to Google and Wikipedia, she actually is a really interesting person with an interesting background and her life story. And she went to Princeton, and there's many more than that, but I found that awesome. And she was one of the first people that like connected with her fans via internets and message boards and things before the internet was cool. And I think she even ended up starting her own like digital company of some sort. So even with her lyrics and Hello and the disconnected modem and data backup stuff, I think she might have just always been interested in computers. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then also when I did some Google-de-goo on her, it said in August 97, Esquire named Poe, along with Gwen Stefani, Lil' Kim, and Sarah McLachlan, among the top 5 women who rock our world. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I just found her somehow. I don't know
Yeah.
if like a friend or Hello was on the radio. But yeah, and it's been really fun thinking about these songs again, because now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go listen to that CD again and have all those feels because the whole album's really good.
Yeah. And the music too, when we listen to my songs, I think the music, like the non-lyrical part of it, also has a like late 80s new wave kind of feeling. It's kind of like trancey, like a trance. uh we say the word vibe too much. I'm using effort to not just describe everything as a vibe, but I don't know what other word to use in this moment, because when the music, like when the bass line kicked in, I was like, I could like physically feel my body like accepting the music. Like, okay,
Right.
we're gonna start rolling.
Yes.
Before rolling took on its current definition, it used to mean something slightly different. Still related to the same feeling though, like of like the
Yes.
wave of like just comfort that like flows through you. And like that's how I
Yes.
just felt like a wave of like, oh, this is there's this thing called sound bathing. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, does Katie know about sound bathing? She's like, yes.
Absolutely. Because I feel like, music is a very immersive experience. And I honestly, I feel bad for people that don't have that hardwired in their brain, or those few people. I feel like the way my brain is hardwired, I definitely feel the music, and the bass drum kicks in, and I feel like in another life I could have been a whirling dervish or something. I could just completely get lost in the music and the beat and whatever they're using, whatever instruments, to make me feel that ethereal plane where like my
Yeah.
body is responding to the music, not just my brain.
Yeah.
This is an automated response that I can't control.
Well, it's totally a thing that it's funny you would say whirling dervish, because complete sidetrack here, that sparks off of those 2 words. But there's this comedian, Jason Mantzoukas,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, I just get too deep dive on people. Anyways, he studied groupthink, or like group experience. Like he was some kind of performance major, but basically concert experience or mutual joint dance, like tribal, your bodies actually start synchronizing with each other. You synchronize
Yes.
with the music and you synchronize with each other. And if you get like enough let go of your thought process, you can actually like unlock literally a trance state in your mind. So it
Right.
is like taking drugs, like to
Absolutely.
just completely let go of your mind and like just get sucked into the music. And this is something that like human beings have been playing with and without, you know, pharmaceutical assistance for as long as people have decided to live together and to like do mutual activities. So I think that's one of the things that I really like about music is that ability to create this like communal experience. It's January, everything's about introspection right now, and I'm like getting, you know, I do this process. I'm very like transactional and process oriented in all aspects of my life. But there's like this component of self-actualization called your degree of relatedness versus solitude. And everybody has a different amount of solitude that they need in their life versus a certain amount of like people time.
Yep.
And but part of why you need people time is your body actually will start to release serotonins and endorphins based on shared experience. And that is why like if you go to a concert and it's amazing, everybody comes out high as a kite,
High off the endorphins.
yeah,
Yeah.
whether they did any ingestment inside or pregame or whatever, you get so high from all of the serotonin and endorphins of this crowd experience. And it's just something that there's no other way to get that. Like there's literally no other way to get that. I think that's part of why big musicians get addicted to heroin because apparently that's like one of the most close experiences because endorphin is your body's own heroin. And
Yeah.
so heroin is like a cheaper, accessible outside of your body version of getting that same like really amazing, everything feels good, everything is positive, like the amount of joy that's just saturated in your body from that like group experience. So I could see like the way even just like the music started that process. Like she's already so much further down the road than like, you know, I would talk about music that doesn't sound good in your ears. Like I don't like scratchy music. Like I don't like music that has a lot of like because
Mm.
to me I start out like scrunched up, but this music just started me like already relaxed, ready to start the process of like kicking off the flow state. So yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that being your study music, your homework music, your like just background of your life music, just to keep yourself background into like loosey goose flow state, ready to accept the world as it comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Explains a lot about what's going on with Katie, that this is like, oh, she's like, I need to press reset. Where's this Poe lady?
Exactly. Well, and also too, on top of all that, I think there's a certain range of vocal intonation that I really like or that makes me feel a certain mood or whatever, because I know that there are some bands or uh musicians where I'm like, I don't really like the song, but this dude's voice, it's like right in that range of vocal intonation that just is my sweet spot and makes me very happy on the inside. And I love her
Yeah,
voice.
for me, that's Post Malone. Like, I don't know
Oh
that
yeah.
I listen to his songs with the words. Like, I don't think I'm absorbing the song's words, but
Yeah.
I could just vibe out to that dude like for hours.
I'm with you. Not at all like Post Malone, but like Jim Croce does that for me. I
Yeah.
absolutely love Jim Croce's voice. I could listen to all the, well, and I love all his songs too, but that's another another example for another pod. But that he's like one of the first things that popped into my mind. Him, Cat Stevens, just all of that. Anyway, so that was song number 2.
Okay.
All right, song number 3. I will just, this is the first song that I'm starting kind of in the middle because
Okay.
the part that I want to play has to do with my story of why I love the song so much. So I'm going to start
Okay.
at like a minute 38 in or something like that.
Okay.
So let's get started here. We go.
Bigger you get, the boss I denial, the best I forget. The cupboard is empty, we really need food. Summer is winter, and you always knew. Going up and coming down.
So I'm gonna guess you've heard of this band,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
heard this song.
Yeah.
They're a little more on the famous non-obscure side.
Right.
But yeah, Bush, one of the like just bass bands in my life and my husband's life. I mean, I'm sure I haven't explicitly said it, but that's one of the reasons my husband and I connected so well. We like the same kind of music, we like the same bands, music and movies, whatever. Those very important things that you look for in a mate when you are 16 when you
Mhm.
first meet someone. Um, but yeah, Bush is one of our favorite bands. This is from the album 16 Stone. This song came out in 1994, and I guess technically this is a running theme of two of the three songs, but this song also reminds me of my friend Beth. And I don't know if she'll even remember this, but um she has a very fun, quirky habit of like hearing words or things that people say very wrong and
Mhm.
just really weird, but super funny. And in this part in the Bush song of Little Things, where he says like little things over and over again, if you listen to it on like an offbeat, she's like, it sounds like he's saying Lottie instead of little things. So he's just like little, 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 and she hears like Lottie, 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 but like on a weird offbeat.
Mhm.
And so that just always makes me giggle. And there are just so many songs I like from Bush. They needed to be on my list, but that's why I picked this one. And so even like Bush, seen him in concert a bunch of times. He, of course, was married to Gwen Stefani forever, and then this whole like doing the nanny thing, and that was very disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Never learned that much about the people who you like their
Yeah.
music. But many things about Bush. Love his voice, loved his look, of course. He was just like apparently my body type is like skinny heroin rocker with long hair. That's my jam.
Yeah.
And so he was checking off all the boxes there. Good rock song, great guitar, so that's I don't really have any like special concert stories for that or special memories, but uh pretty much every song on 16 Stone is a hit. And then Razor Blade Suitcase has the song Mouth on it from the movie American Werewolf in Paris from like 97 or something.
Mhm.
So yeah, just big part of my formative years.
We
Mr.
did not
Gavin
coordinate.
Rosdale.
We did not coordinate at all. And I'm just gonna go to my first song right now. Right now.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Because this is so funny.
There we go.
It must be your skin, I'm sinking in. Must be for real, 'cause now I can feel. I didn't mind, it's not my kind, it's not my time to wonder why. Everything gone white, and everything's gray. Now you're here, now you're away. I don't want this, remember that. I'll never forget where you're at. Don't let the days go by. Glycerine.
We just got the two for double hits of Bush.
Oh
That's
my
so funny.
gosh. That's so funny. Yeah. But do you see how beautiful this man is?
Yes,
Oh
he
my
is a
God.
beautiful man.
He is
Beautiful
such a
man.
beautiful man. So
Hmm.
beautiful. So I never saw them in concert, but when I graduated from high school, my grandparents did this thing where when this is stupid, it's not related, but when people are 12, and my grandparents had this big thing that when you're 12 you're like becoming a citizen of the world. And my grandpa was from Sweden, my grandma basically was French. And so when you're 12 you go on this like grand tour of Europe type situation. It's great. And I'm not saying it's not great, but it's not that grand of a tour of Europe when you go with your grandma when you're 12. So when I turned 17 and I was graduating from high school, my little cousin was turning 12 and it was her turn to go on this thing. And my grandma, I'm the oldest grandkid. She was really like attached to me and like wanted me to be this citizen of the world. And she's like, oh, I'm going to take both of them. And so, like, instead of doing a month or 3 weeks of summer with my friends, I did 3 weeks of summer with my little 12-year-old cousin and my like 80 something year old grandma in Italy, which I am grateful. It was amazing. It was beautiful, but it was also like this moment where I was losing my high school friends. None of us were going to college together. Like this was my last hurrah. And like it was 96, but we didn't have the internet. Like it cost $1 billion to call home. Like it was so traumatizing in that like really like little kid kind of way. Like I can't be away from my friends for that long. And so I brought my Discman and I brought this CD and I played it nonstop.
This is
You
the
know, you're just like,
soundtrack of a
this is the
pivotal moment in your
soundtrack of
life.
that pivotal moment. You're like, okay, you know what? I need to learn to appreciate this because this is special. Not everyone gets to do this. And, you know, get outside of yourself and live in this moment. And like, this trip was a freaking disaster. My grandma got pneumonia and she couldn't participate the whole last week of the trip. I was in charge of my little 12-year-old cousin. It was her birthday. I had to put a birthday together for a little 12-year-old kid. I was like, I had a lot of happenings in this time period. Plus, I was in this country where I didn't really speak the language, and like I could not consume media except for this CD, a Depeche Mode CD, and a Jimi Hendrix CD. Like for some reason, I did not bring enough music on this trip. For sure, I did not know Katie at this time because she's like, 3 CDs is not going to get you through 3 weeks. What is wrong with you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but I played this nonstop for 3 weeks, and then I forgot it in the hotel. It got
Oh,
forgotten. The CD got left on like when you're packing all your suitcase. I didn't want to get my Discman squished, so I put it like on the side, and the CD got left behind. So for the longest time, I only had the jewel case to remind me of like how I just poured my emotions of like all like it's great, but it sucks, but it's great, but it sucks, but it's great. I just poured that just like laying on the bed with the headphones on. Like bad moon rising.
did you why did you pick this song from the CD? Anything special about this song?
Um, just because like I think also like my high school friends, I had a friend who looked like this guy, and he always just sang this song because like people were like, oh, you look like that guy from that band, and he's like, you mean this band? So I just had like a deeper imprint to this particular song than the rest. But like yeah, I listened to this album on freaking repeat, not even on shuffle because I don't think I had shuffled yet. I just like repeat, 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 repeat. Like it was, I know it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
You're gonna ask me, do I know this song? And I'd be like, let me just say.
oh my gosh, too funny.
Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. But it's just another example of how, with all of our musical differences in the Venn diagram of life, we have our little circle, our little bits of the circle that overlap. And every week our songs keep proving that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's part of the themes of the zeitgeist at that time too.
Mhm.
And um like the angst and the disappointment and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and late 90s, being 15, 16, 17, 18, that's when you start learning that the world's not perfect, your parents aren't perfect, what's going on in society. I'm about to have to be in society, and all the artists around that time too are singing about issues and things that you might not have been aware of being a kid, and like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess I should start thinking about these things outside of myself. You have the artists that sing your heart songs and your relationship songs, but then you also have the ones that sing about society and discontent and classism and sexism and everything else. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't know all these isms existed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
And the just that music is a place you can pour out your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even when you know you're being petty and small, that there's still music there to like receive your emotion, that um I don't know, for some reason I'm just like, like that F you I won't do what you tell me, like
Oh,
just like
that's one of my favorite
yeah,
songs when I'm having a bad day.
every emotion that I could feel is just like I can put a song with it.
Yes.
And again, going back, it's January, I have a lot of introspection. And I've been married a long time, you've been married a long time, and part of that, and we met our spouses when we were very young, so like
Hmm.
we were not fully formed human adults when we met these people. And we had to like grow together into a full adults, and part of that is like being able to externalize how you're feeling, like what's going on inside of me right now is embodied in this song, and what's going on inside of me right now is embodied in this song, and using music as a way to communicate with your partner about like what's going on with you at any one moment. And I do think that like my husband listened to like a lot more R&B when he was in high school. But he's like me. He likes to like what other people like. So, um our friend group got really into like happy upbeat ska music, which was good for me because I like to surround myself with that feeling. Um because I think you said like your day can be modulated by the music you're listening to. Like if you want to get something done, you can't listen to like slow, chill
Yeah,
music because you'll just be like, well,
absolutely.
couch day. And that's how I sometimes I do think back and I'm like, okay, if I had brought different CDs on that trip, what would I be like right now? Because like it is just so much like mental programming to have listened to this. Um And I'm like, okay, well, what if I had brought Weird Al on that trip instead? Which was probably one of my runners up that I just like, oh, I don't have room in this one little CD wallet for Weird Al. Like, what would I have been different? How would I have been different if I had been listening to Weird Al on repeat for 3 straight weeks instead of friggin' Bush moping about and just like, oh, everything sucks and I'm like,
Well, I think too, um, me as a person, I've always been better at writing my feelings. That's why I think I like musical lyrics so much. But I feel like I have trouble verbalizing on the cuff how I feel, or it's a weird um paradox in my head or whatever. I was super into spelling and vocabulary and SAT words and those $10 words and all of that, but when expressing my feelings or relating to people, I have a hard time verbalizing. And so it was so much easier for me to hear other people's lyrics and be like, that is what I mean to say, or this is how I'm feeling inside. It's hard for me to verbalize emotions or relationships or whatever.
yeah,
Um, which is like really weird for me, recently discovered as a person, because part of my identity has always been, oh, straight A's, writing. I taught reading and language arts. Like everything is all about words and communication. But I think, putting a different frame on it, it's definitely been more writing and written communication versus verbal, and music gives you that, and the emotions with the actual instrumentation behind it. I think I've always used to express my feelings, um, modify my feelings, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like using a megaphone or whatever. See, I'm having trouble with words now. Amplifying my feelings.
Yeah.
So, music can do all of those things for me. I think it just is a matter of how I'm interacting with it that day. Am I in control of how the music makes me feel, or is the music controlling my emotions today?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
that's part of why I like musical theater too.
Mm,
Because obviously it's explicitly telling a story, and
yeah.
it's explicitly manipulating your emotions over a plot arc. Um, and sometimes I find that, like, regular music you consume through like the radio, through CDs, that not if I'm not in the right headspace
Yeah.
to be on that theme of that day, like Taylor Swift's new album, I can't even remember the name of it, but she has all these songs about like regret and like having to face your bad choices from the past, and like this is to her audience, because her audience is young women who are grappling with, oh, I was overboard when I was doing this, and my bad now might have to live with all the bad choices that I've made. But sometimes I'm like, I just I don't have time today to be revisiting bad choices I made 20
Right.
years ago. Taylor Swift, you're gonna just have to get out of here with this right now. I don't have time for this. But then sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's not that I want to think about like mean things I said when I was 19, but sometimes you are thinking about that already, and you just need to process that emotion a little bit. And then like Taylor Swift is there for you when her midnights become her afternoons, and
Yes.
you don't make good choices after 1 a.m., typically. Okay. So this next song, I believe, was also on repeat on that vacation, but I can't. No, it's not as firmly imprinted in my brain as the other CD. But
Okay.
this is still something that I listen to pretty regularly.
Words like violence break the silence, come crashing into my little world. Painful to me, it's right through me. Can't you understand? Oh, my little girl. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm.
Well, I got to be honest. I have heard that song many, many times. I had no idea that was the title of the song. So my relationship with Depeche Mode is, I feel like I was like a little too young when they were popular, and that wasn't the music I was into. And it's funny because now I'm going back and kind of looking at, I want to say, late 80s famous bands that I missed out on, maybe even like new wave post punk stuff, that I didn't feel like I liked back then. And I think I'm going to be in love with all of it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm listening to that and just going, all right, am I just going to be like a late obsessive person with Depeche Mode now? I might be.
So good. It's so good. um yeah, I probably got turned on to Depeche Mode through my dad. I'm just thinking about like my dad was obviously he had a new wave phase that he was, whatever musics were new and exciting, he was obviously going to try them out. But I think um I am also too young to like Depeche Mode. But I think I was into them already. Like I already knew like, oh, this is one of those bands that's timeless. And I really like this sound, like this synth pop. I really like this sound. Like even um this song is circulating on TikTok.
Oh, is it?
And yeah. And it sucks me in every time because I'm like, oh, what is it gonna be? It's always some like, 14-year-old kid just like all emo, like black, especially with the Wednesday Addams, like
Oh,
like
oh,
their clothes and
girl.
everything. But
Yes.
like this song, like when I'm thinking about, okay, I'm 16, I have angst, I have disappointment, my world is not going, it's not being built at the speed and in the direction that I would like it to be built. I'm not the master of what's going on in my life right now. This song, it just like starts talking to me. And I'm doing this thing right now that I recommend to a lot of people to do if you feel like you are introspective. It's January. You want to see how you distribute your day. Before this podcast, I like, get my songs all set up and I make sure they play and that they don't have any weird things happening. And I started playing this song, and then it says on my calendar, fully hypnotized by Depeche Mode for 45 minutes. I just like let this play back to back to back to back, just let it go. And then when I'm like, oh wait, I have work to do today. And so I stopped it, and then I had my sound machine, like the little Apple Music guy. So I'm like, hey, play me some Depeche Mode, and then it played me Depeche Mode literally until 5 minutes before this. So I don't know if I would describe them like how you had Poe as like the wallpaper of your life, but it might be close because it's just so the softness of the music is soft too, just like it's easy to listen to. It just smoothly like enters your brain in a nice like non-intrusive way, but then you're like words are violence.
Yeah.
Oh, words are violence.
Yeah. Well, I think too, now that you said that, it just reminded me, like, I think that was part of it also, is it feels like a very neutral mood to me. And especially being younger, I had no neutral. It was just very extreme. I'm extremely angsty and upset, or I'm extremely happy and jumping off the roofs and just bubbly bubblegum pop. There was no real middle ground when I was young. And I think maybe that was kind of like, it made me just feel like neutral. Like, what do I do with this? Does it move me forwards or backwards? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my third song, I'm pretty sure you're not going to know.
Okay. I'm excited for this.
Okay. It's not going to have a video either.
Okay.
But now the storm simply rests to strike again. Standing, waiting, I think of her. I think of strange this marriage, she leaves the room yet remains. She lingers on. Something stirs me to think of her. I think of her. From death she casts her spell. All night we hear her sighs. And now a girl has come who has her eyes. She has her eyes. The girl has Lily's hazel eyes, those eyes that saw him happy long ago. Those eyes that gave him life and hope he'd never known. How can he see the girl and miss those hazel? She has her eyes.
Okay, so are you familiar with Tony Award-winning musical The Secret Garden?
I am not actually. I'm familiar with the story, the book, the movies, but not the Tony Award-winning musical. No.
Yeah, so last week we were talking about how I was in band, so let me just share one more thing. um, so this is my band.
Yes.
Here's me right here. This is what I look like.
Lovely. Oh my gosh, this is
Yeah,
amazing.
so see how tiny our band is? Look how
Yeah.
little it is.
Oh, had a small band too. I'm with you.
And then this is our color guard, and you can see like the color guard is at least a third of the band. But yeah, this was the band we presented A Secret Garden as our field show in 1993. So it's a classic kids tale. So as we know, I'm trying to read the Harry Potter series as an adult person, and I was having a hard time getting into it. But then I had this new realization that I should just treat it as a Monster of the Week procedural, because I love those. And the people in those make real bad choices left and right. And I don't get mad at them for being stupid. So why am I getting upset that these children are getting into hijinks? Like, that is the whole purpose of the story. Anyways, Secret Garden is also one of these stories where like a kid has no adult supervision and has to make discoveries about themselves. And she finds her dead aunt's garden, and she finds out her cousin is like this invalid locked up in the third floor, and her uncle's crazy, and her uncle's brother is crazy. Like, everybody in her whole life is crazy except for her. And like eventually she finds her cousin, and it was Tony Award winning. And the lady who wrote the play, like they call it the book, but that's basically the script. It's the script plus the lyrics is called the book. She also wrote another play called Night Mother, which is traumatizing. It is about it's about someone who has decided that this is their last night on Earth. And they're having a discussion with their mother about those facts. And just like the interpersonal dynamics of somebody saying, this is what's happening, and good night, mother. And like, things happen.
Yeah.
And so that won a Pulitzer Prize. So
Oh,
this
wow.
lady can write. This lady, Marcia Norman, she can write. Because this story is a kid's story. Like, it's not.
Right.
It's not deep literature, but she took that story and she like layered on this heartbreak story of the uncle and the brother both love the same woman, and the uncle is like a doctor, but the brother who ended up marrying the girl is kind of like he was crippled in the war. Like, it has all these like has all of these like little layers on it that were not there in the original kids story. And so of course Tony Award winning, which it should be. But my high school band, we would basically live and eat and sleep and breathe this music, whatever was our show, from end of July till end of December. Just like hours and hours of practice. We would perform it every week. We would perform it at competitions. We would perform it at all the football games. Performed it at like the concert at the end of the semester. So like it just and it's a musical, so it's like an hour and 20 something minutes. So it's very dense. It's like listening to 3 albums.
Right.
It fills up your whole life. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is starting to make more sense to me why I didn't really have other cracks to put other music inside of. Plus this music, like especially these really good musicals, like my band director chose really, really good musicals. I would highly recommend people to listen to this soundtrack for The Secret Garden. You don't even have to know the story because it's a musical. So like that's what the people don't like about musicals. They're like they just sing to you the whole story, like exposition, advancing the plot. Da-da-da. But it's convenient because you don't need to watch it to know what's happening.
Right.
And one of the guys, the one that was crippled in the war is what's his name? Patinkin.
Mandy
From
Patinkin.
Mandy
I saw
Patinkin.
that.
Yeah. So I'm
If
like,
you weren't going to say it, I was going to say I would like a shout out to Mandy Patinkin and all of
yeah,
his talents other than being Indigo Montoya from Princess Bride.
yeah. So but yeah, so
I
like
heard
this,
his voice. It was so beautiful.
it's and yeah, exactly. So like you forget that those TV actors were actually incredibly talented people who had trained and honed their craft for many, many years. And yeah, this song Lily's Eyes is a like this is not part of the book at all, like because the book is really only about the little girl and the little girl's finding of the garden and making it her own space. But
Yeah.
this song is about like that heartbreak of like he's not even like recovered from the grief of losing his wife, and now he's responsible. So in the play, the little girl's parents died in India and she was very rich, and this is her last surviving relative. It's not even really her relative. So she gets sent to live with this guy who used to be married to her dead aunt. And she was spoiled. She was like very wealthy family. And so she has to learn to live with no attention because there's no attention. Because this guy is still suffering from his grief so much that he barely has any like people working in his house. He barely has a housekeeper to keep him fed, and like so he doesn't have a big staff even though he's a fancy rich guy, and he barely has a gardener to keep like the weeds under control. So there's no people for her to interact with, there's no other children, there's nothing. So she went from this world where she was everything to this world where she's nothing. And he's also having to face that she looks exactly like her mother, which means she looks exactly like her aunt, which means she's just constantly reminding him of, oh, like you look exactly like the dead wife. And like it just like a whole grief story. Of course, also she lost her parents and it's really horrific like cholera outbreak. It was a lot to like think through. Even like I think I was like 14, 15 when we presented this. Because yeah, you have to, one of the things about like presenting it, even when you're playing the music, is that you have to feel those emotions to communicate that emotion when you were presenting. And that's where you know, if you go and you see somebody perform and it just feels flat, like they're phoning it in, because they are, like they're not there in that moment, they're not feeling those feelings, they're not like giving it to you. And so my band director was not having any of that. Like we had to feel the grief, we had to feel the emotional load, we had to like pour that emotion into the music and project it out on the field. So like I think that going back to, for me, what music, what it serves in my life is like learning that you can find that emotion even if like you organically weren't feeling grief in that moment. You can access a part of your brain. And also like when you're 14, how much grief, most people who are 14 have not felt that much grief, right? But you can like develop your empathy, like you can
Yes.
find, okay, like, well, I've never organically felt that grief, so I need to go like mine my empathy to feel enough grief and turmoil and upset so that when I'm playing this music, it's there for the people who are hearing it. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's one of the reasons, like one of the massive benefits of theater, musical theater, music in general, is honing those empathy skills and having a good teacher or a good director or someone that can explain it to you as a child, knowing that you've never, most likely never had these experiences of just like, this is how that person would feel. So you could at least logically and mentally learn that. Even if you can't feel it yourself, you can equate emotions,
Yeah.
you know, as a learned thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, for sure. Am I think I'm a lot of who I am now as an adult person is because I did musical theater and like as a musician, not as a vocalist. And I think that just the ability to tap into emotion and find it and feel it and recognize it, I think that's the biggest thing that theater and performance and literature and all that stuff helps you to recognize feelings in yourself and feelings in others and to understand where feelings come from and how they grow and how they fester and how they resolve and all of that stuff. So I love music. I love musical theater. I was thinking, I'm like, should I do one from every show I've performed? I'm like, no, that's probably too far. If it's all musical theater in my whole section, it was probably going to be like no one was going to know any of my songs. But I'll just sprinkle them in over the next few weeks because I went down this John Williams rabbit hole because I was like, oh, I really wanted to put the reprise of the theme of Hook because I love just the reprise. I mean, I love the whole score, but like the reprise is really good, but I couldn't find it on YouTube and I couldn't figure out how to make the Apple Music play through Zoom. So I got to do some more homework on how to make that happen, but be prepared everyone because we're going to go to like the whole John Williams like career, which is long. It's like 50 years worth of musical productions.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
Katie, any new vinyl this week?
I did bring some vinyl to share. I didn't go with like new artists, but I just kept on the theme of kind of like 90s and whatnot music. So I did want to show first time on vinyl. We've got Limp Bizkit, Chocolate, Starfish, and the hot dog flavored water. This came out in 2000. This is not my favorite Limp Bizkit album, by the way. This just has, Rollin' on it, and it was
Yeah.
really famous. And but I just thought this was a funny vinyl to share. And then the next vinyl I have is probably something that'll make it on the pod eventually. Third Eye Blind, their quintessential album of growing up here with Semi Charmed Kind of Life and Jumper and everything like that.
What's that guy? What's the singer of that band's name?
Oh my gosh. Yes, he has a solo career and everybody loves him. It's Steven something. This will be it's not on the outside of this. I feel bad because it's a cool last name. We'll update that in the next in the next
update.
Yeah, but
and
then
he
in the
has
spirit,
a whole he sings with like other what do they call it? Features. He features in other people's songs too.
oh yeah, he's just one of those like multi-talented guys that is just everywhere in the music scene that everyone who's like truly into music knows who he is, and I'm just like, I like Third Eye Blind. And then this is one of my favorite series of, I guess I would say, cover album genres, but there is this I guess a business or whatever, it's called Rockabye Baby, and it is lullaby versions of rock bands or punk bands or metal bands or whatever, and it's essentially just xylophone cover songs and so the latest one, I think, from Record Store Day, they always put out one each Record Store Day, and this one is Blink 182. So I got the vinyl, but that's one of those laughable, quirky things about me. I've got like, I want to say 8 to 10 of these now. I have no kids, but this is, some of that study music, right? It's like, if I don't want to get caught up in lyrics, but I want to hear songs I'm familiar with, I can go to my Rockabye Baby library and get No Doubt, CCR, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Depeche Mode, I think has one, Pearl Jam, White Stripes, Bob Marley, and Blink 182 now. So I would highly recommend that, especially if I suppose people our age have kids. So if you're looking for a lighthearted way to get your kids straight from the womb and into some AC/DC, here's your transitional step.
Did you watch Bridgerton? I think it's on Netflix.
Oh, so I watched the first season, but that is what I love about Bridgerton, right? Is it's a period piece, but it has modern music,
Yeah.
cellos and violins and things of rock
Yeah.
songs.
Little harpsichord. I actually quite enjoy Bridgerton. I haven't read the book series yet, and I think I'm going to when I finally finish Harry Potter. But I thought that it could go badly. Like that kind of modern music in a period piece can go badly, but it went really, really well in Bridgerton. I really liked it. I was actually like, oh yeah, I should look to see if they published those tracks
Like
anywhere.
a
I'm sure it's
soundtrack.
yeah, I'm sure I could just be like music from Bridgerton on Apple Music and it would like show up there because
Oh yeah.
I really like that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
also, I know, in all of my TikTok algorithms or whatever, there are people that specialize now in like, emo music, but they play it at weddings with the cello and violin
Hmm.
and things. And so people our age that are getting married or, 10 years younger are doing like My Chemical Romance, doing the My
Yeah.
Chemical Romance songs, walking down the aisle and things, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful classical renditions.
But kids these days are into My Chemical Romance. I was just at the middle school the other day, and what's their really famous song? Something Black Parade, something about a parade.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those little kids were rocking out. I shouldn't call them little kids. They're, in eighth grade. They were rocking out. Yeah, no, okay. Well, this was fun,
Yeah,
always.
absolutely.
And I'm gonna stop recording now.
All right. Well, I'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.